Hello my good people, today we're going to do something new, an old school video game series look back, where we turn back the time a bit and look at some old video game franchises that are more obscure these days. I'll guide you through the games, tell you my overall thoughts, and info dump facts. So today, we're going to be looking at Gex, the TV-loving Gecko. Consider him the more TV-obsessed version of the Gecko. This lovable lizard started 3 platformer games from 1995 to 1999. I've played all 3 of them, not counting the handheld versions, and I have quite a bit to say about them. So let's begin the review, shall we? Prepare to say Gex! The first game in the series was released for the 3DO, and is often considered the best one, not that it had much competition. Although it was re-released for other consoles later. The story is simple. Gex is just sitting at his home watching TV. However, after eating a robotic fly that the villain Rez sent in, Rez is able to suck him into the television world, and it's up to Gex to escape the TV dimension and get home. Or at least that's the story if you only played the game. Yeah, according to the manual, Gex has this whole backstory where his father died in a NASA accident, so Gex started watching a lot more TV in order to get his mind off it. There's also some other stuff involving the rest of his family members and struggling financially, as well as his uncle taking on a mentorship role. The manual also states that Gex lives in a big fancy mansion in Hawaii, and owns the world's largest TV, though I've seen bigger, but it's a 90s game. It's an odd inclusion for sure. Supposedly this was meant to be a joke about how manuals, which games don't even have these days, have unnecessary detail about overly deep lore about simple games. But I have a theory. Maybe this was planned to play a role in the story, but for this to mean anything, they'd have to give Gex some sort of character arc where he learns to stop being such a couch potato. But then maybe they were worried that people would take this message to heart and be less likely to buy the rest of the games in the series. Anyways, let's talk about the most important part of this or any game. The graphics. Just kidding, the gameplay. Here we have a 2D platformer game where you collect golden flies, tail whip enemies, and avoid landing in bottomless pits. While it's not reinventing the wheel or anything, the gameplay is actually pretty enjoyable for the most part. We have some pretty good level design, a decent enemy variety, and power-ups that make the gameplay much more fun. Another thing I like is the whole thing about keeping your power-ups, which you lose if you get hit, to the end. If you beat a level with the power-up still intact, you get extra score. You also get bonus points for how much health you have left over. Kinda keeps you on edge, because if you want to get a good score, you have to make sure you beat a level pretty flawlessly. Another highlight of the game is the level design, and how most of the levels have something that makes them feel different. While all of them follow the same get-to-the-goal objective, there's usually something that makes each level feel different from one another, such as trying to stay on a raft or scaling the mountain, etc. As for the world themes, we got horror, cartoon, martial arts, and jungle. What, isn't jungle your favorite genre of film? And the bonus unlockable science fiction world, with levels that will really test your skills, which you unlock by completing hidden minigames or cheating using the password system. These are all good themes and all, despite the fact I wouldn't really consider jungle a film genre. They also do a good job playing homage to these genres, such as this boss being based off The Exorcist. And a level in the cartoon world has that kind of gag where you open the door and then something unexpected appears. However, there are some things holding this game back, unfortunately. For starters, I don't get the point of having to collect the remote before exiting a level. That means if you get to the end of a level but miss the remote, you're gonna have to start again and hope to get it this time. To make matters even worse, it sometimes blends into the background. Especially jarring because an easy fix would just have the remote be the main goal at the end of the level. There's also, if you're playing on the PS1 version at least, the awful save system. If you want to save your progress the old-fashioned way, you gotta collect these cassette tapes. Then after you're done in the level, it displays the password on the screen and you're supposed to write it down. If you miss one, too bad! You're not saving until you find another one next level. Why did anybody think this was a good idea? Even worse is the fact that the original 3DO version had automatic saving, so why the heck didn't they just bring that over to the PS1 version? There was a few other flaws, like the camera being zoomed in a little too much at times, and the tail jumping not being great for platforming, but I don't want to make this video too long. Overall, a decent little time that's worth it if you're into platform mascot games, but it's probably the weakest of the trilogy. Up next is Gex 2, aka Deep Cover Gecko, aka Gex 3D, aka
Get on with it! Yes! Get on with it!
Okay, I'm sorry. Anyways, taking place a few years after the first one, Gex has gained some celebrity status for saving the media dimension. However, Rez is back and the government hire Gex to go back to the TV world and stop him. At first Gex says no, but they bribe him with some money, so now he's a secret agent trying to save the day. It should be noted that when they released Gex 2 to the UK, they gave him a slightly different voice actor to lean more into UK pop culture at the time. And hearing both voices, I'm not sure which one is better. The original American version has a voice that matches the tongue-in-cheek tone of the game, but the UK voice actually sounds like somebody who would get laid. Anyways, as you can see, the game has jumped to the third dimension and is now a 3D platformer. And it's a collectathon, you know, where the main goal is to collect a main item, in this case remotes, through missions to progress to the next level. And I gotta say, this is my favorite of the Gex games. The level designs are varied and well done. There's a level of detail here to appreciate. The gameplay takes what works from the first game and improves upon it, such as the power-up and Gecko abilities. Yeah, I guess I should mention that. All these Gex games, he does stuff that his real-life animal counterpart does, such as stick and climb up certain walls, slurp up bugs and health with his tongue, and he makes pop culture references, just like a real lizard does. And has more and even better themed worlds. It probably feels the most TV-like one out of all of them, since these parodies are more noticeable. The game also has the best soundtrack out of all of these, in my opinion. The Rez theme sounds intimidating and catchy. The music for the cop level was so good that I replayed the level a few times just to jam out. Another cool thing is that the collectibles change depending on the level. For one example, in the horror levels, at first you're collecting skulls, then once you get 30 it switches to tombstones, and then once you get 40 it switches to Jason masks, and then when you collect enough you get a remote. And each world has 3 unique coins. It's just a cool little touch. There's also tons of remotes that you collect either by finding them or completing a certain task. And you don't have to collect all of them to beat the game, but you can go back and collect more, giving the game a good amount of replay value. As for the bosses, probably the best in the series. Well, the first boss isn't anything special. Moonshine is a fun and surprisingly creepy boss battle. There's a cool fight against a Mecha Godzilla parody while you yourself are giant, and the final confrontation with Rez, amazing. From the level building up to it, to the fight itself, it's just a great boss. Anyways, after you defeat Rez, we get him trying to explain that he's Gex's father, but Gex refuses to believe him and turns him off. Obvious Star Wars parody aside, is Rez actually Gex's father? I mean, we know his dad died in an explosion, so it is possible somebody tried to revive him and he came back wrong. Either way, Gex refuses to believe him. After that, Gex is in a hotel room with some women drinking a martinis. Yeah, I guess at this point they were trying to give the series more of a Bond-esque theme. Not just with him wearing a tuxedo and being undercover, but with him drinking a martini and getting the girl in the end, even though there was no girl for him up until now. And last but not least, we have Gex 3 Deep Cover Gecko, the final game in the series. As of now, the story is that Agent Extra, who's played by an actual person by the way, and not animated like everybody else, has been kidnapped by guess who, so it's up to Gex to enter the media dimension yet again and save her. Also, this time around, Gex has a butler named Alfred. Does that sound familiar? Also, looking at the cover of the game, you might notice something. Rated T for teen. Why is this game rated T while the others are rated E? Let's just say it's justified. So the gameplay is similar to the second game, where you complete tasks to earn remotes, you platform through levels, and so forth. Unfortunately, the cool gimmick of each world having unique collectibles is gone now, so you're back to collecting gold flies again. But there's a bigger variety of worlds, as well as the levels being bigger overall. We have a superhero-themed level, a Christmas one for when you're in Rome, a mobster world, and even an anime channel, which isn't as interesting as it sounds. I do like how the worlds never repeat themselves, though you'll have to go back in them to get more remotes, as well as how unique some of the tasks can be. For example, in Detective TV, one mission has you trying to find clues, but then you shrink down and you have to fight a time limit through that. There's also some pretty interesting set pieces, like when you have to climb a mountain of shit in the Wild West. Yeah, there's even frickin' peanuts in it. This is the second most impressive pile of shit I've seen in a video game. Something else you've probably noticed in both this and Enter the Gecko is that Gex's outfits change depending on the place he's in. In the previous game it was just for looks. Here, certain costumes can help you glide in some levels. I didn't mention this when talking about Gex 2, but I noticed that the horror-themed levels are the only ones without a unique costume. Either they couldn't think of anything, or it's a reference to all the gratuitous nudity slashers have. Anyways, although the size of the levels, variety of tasks, and designs are all impressive, there are a few things that bring the game down a few points. For starters, just having 100 fly coins in each level is kind of a cop-out. Another thing is that while the levels are big, this will lead you to run around with little to do at times. Also, yeah, the whole animal and vehicles things to ride on is a decent idea, but they don't use them enough to make them have any sort of impact, and they almost feel like an afterthought. Another thing that was kind of downgraded are the bosses. While they're not bad, heck, some of them have pretty cool designs. There's only 3 in the entire game. Also, they use the same music for every boss. even in the final fight against Rez. Anyways, after you defeat Rez for the final time, the spark that comes out of him in previous boss fights doesn't come out this time, implying maybe he's gone for good. Then we get the final cutscene, which Alfie tries to call Gex for another mission, but he ignores him to spend some extra time with Agent Extra. And then it's implied they have sex. Yeah, probably the main reason this game is rated T. Heck, in the N64 version, they straight up replace it with an in-game cutscene of Alfie explaining how Gex saved the day, while trying to make it seem like he did all the work. While the cutscene is graphically less impressive, maybe this is the preferred cutscene because there's a lot less bestiality involved. And that was the Gex Trilogy. While not the greatest platformer games you'll experience, they're definitely worth checking out for anybody who's into 3D platformers. The characters are funny and charming, and the graphics, while not anything special by today's standards, are actually pretty impressive with their art style and detail for a cartoony PS1 series. If you're a movie buff, you'll probably get a good kick out of the references to media scattered throughout the games. Anyways, that's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.